You
Yeah.
know, they you want them to feel confident. So I guess, to that point, I feel like there's an opportunity for a lot of people building a product to try to make their job or what they're doing on the side working on someone else's product that's already funded, working on other, like working on another startup situation or working on the PE side, acquiring companies that started that way. Get yourself in the game.
Especially if they've done more than a handful of investments.
Right. But if you're just having more open conversations, sometimes, they're giving you feedback. And if you show them that you're trying to understand their perspective, they're going to appreciate that. They're going to give you more. And they're kind of giving it for free to a degree. I really think it's helpful for someone who wants to become an entrepreneur is
Traction
by Gino Wickman. It's about the EOS system, but really to me, it's about, someone who has a great idea needs to think about how to manage, an actual business and how to structure it and how to come up with a management structure and think about, getting traction with it. So I think this is a good one to jump into.
All right, I'm excited because today I have Brian Cosgrove today, and he's with BrainDo.
Yes.
And I'm very excited for this conversation. Another spiritual man when it comes to getting people successful in business and accelerating things for them. Brian, can you kind of give us a quick introduction about yourself?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Brian Cosgrove, I founded BrainDo in 2013. I've been working in the space heavily in the analytics side of the business, as well as SEO development and a lot of other areas. I love this kind of work that we do. I love to build great new things. And, my team's based out of Philadelphia. We're 25 people. And
good sized team, bravo.
Yeah. We love the work we're doing. So.
Nice. Awesome. Good for you. Brian and I were talking off screen and kind of having some fun talking about kind of the difference between entrepreneurs, solid business owners, and the product spiritualists, perhaps. So I think we might just jump back into that conversation because it's kind of fun. And just give a little bit more background into it. A lot of the times I'll consider anybody who's trying to start a business an entrepreneur. And while that is kind of like a tender way to look at it, it's not exactly true, right? There's a certain hurdles to get through before you're an entrepreneur, just like there's hurdles to overcome when you go from like a freelancer to an agency to those next levels, right? So guys, have some thick skin who's listening, right? It doesn't matter where you're at. What matters is where you get going and where you end up. So I think we're gonna have some fun in this conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've kind of been through all those different phases myself professionally, and yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about there.
So let's start off with the what did you call them? The product.
The product visionary.
The product visionary. So what's the difference between that and a literal entrepreneur?
An entrepreneur is going to look at it from a business perspective first. An entrepreneur is going to look at a market that's underserved. They're going to think about it a bit. They're going to try to they're going to think about the financing. They're going to come up with, maybe more of the financial models. They're going to think about hiring and all of the talent that they need. They're usually oriented from a place where this whole thing has to work. I feel like a product visionary is someone who says, wouldn't that be amazing if? And I think there's a business case behind this, but the idea to spark the inspiration, see, an entrepreneur not all entrepreneurs have great ideas. But, but their objective is to make sure that the ideas actually work and are a sustainable business.
It's because it's profitable.
Exactly. And they're thinking about the customer base and those kinds of things. The product visionary can come up with an idea that the world hasn't seen yet, but it's really hard and almost intangible to say how big it could get. They have some ideas.
Yep.
They've got pieces of it, but what they really have is the ability to visualize and plan and commission an amazing product to get built. and they're usually a bit more hands-on, very specific, very engaged, very invested in that product itself. And so, I look at it as like they're oftentimes trying to become an entrepreneur.
Yep. They're always trying to become either, and sometimes they're trying to skip the entrepreneurial stage and go right to straight business type thing.
I want to skip the entrepreneurial stage. I want to go find someone who's maybe good at that, give them a stake in this great idea, and then ride off into the sunset and just do the fun parts. Yeah, there are definitely people that want to kind of get to that zone.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and you know who they are when they're like, I'm going to design my business to sell.
Right. Yes. Yep. So that's an interesting piece too, right? Is because, if they don't have experience actually selling the business before, I feel like, can you, go through some laps with a PE company, or at least to start to hang out and mingle with people that have sold a business, because I think a lot.
Yeah. Well, an easy way to define the difference between the three groups is the number of scars.
Yeah.
Right. How many scratches and bruises do they have?
Yep. I feel like, a successful entrepreneur, I feel like, has usually had a lot of scars, or has been around enough people with scars to kind of avoid making some of those mistakes.
Yeah. It's you can only make some mistakes so many times before you learn. Right. But some of the challenge is actually doing something and getting to the point when you can kind of get that learning experience. So a lot of times the question, I think, for me is how quickly can you, for somebody who's inspiring as a product visionary or an aspiring entrepreneur, how quickly can you get to the point when they're starting to try to learn sales and to communicate their vision and to selling themselves and looking for investors or ways to raise capital?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I look at it is there are all these bubbles in business and in general where, if you've already been working for PE firms and you've kind of been around the block for a few years, you speak all the right lingo. You kind of know how the conversation, you kind of know the playbook. You've internalized. If you've never done that and you're just saying, look, what can ChatGPT teach me about this? It's like, it could say the right thing, but your mindset isn't there yet to fully get it.
Oh yeah, you don't have the context behind it.
You end up sabotaging the right advice. The little thing you did differently made all the difference in the world. They're like, do it this, and that, and you do this, and something else. And they're like, no, that part was required. That wasn't an optional.
Right. But that part sounded like work, man. Brian, come on, I'm looking for the direct path.
Exactly, and I feel like obviously having some people that have some experience, at least as advisors, at least people that have been around the block a bit, it makes all the difference in the world in terms of that decision making. You need someone to ground you, to be like, I know you think you can do this all from scratch yourself, or that you can figure it all out. Yeah. But you also need to understand that there are other people that are going to figure out how to make money from you, whether it's for your interest or the opposite. They're going to try to find an angle, right? They're going to try to do that. And I don't know. My whole thing is you need kind of a group of people behind you to support you, some mentors and coaches and experienced people for it to work. And some people who will tell you, hey, I can't see that business making money. Like you need someone that's going to be like, if you told me that's how you want the back end operations to look like, I'm like, that sounds expensive. But what you want to charge is too little to justify that and make a margin. Like, I don't see it working. So I don't know. I feel like it's the better your network, the better off the products you're going to be.
There's a lot of truth in that. I come from the development side, from the web and mobile app world, and part of what we do is, because we're still kind of engineers in a way, even with ChatGPT out there, we're still the engineers, and The part of the process for us is a little different than a lot of people, because we try to look at the business side of it and what's going to be the next steps after you just get your MVP. Yeah. And one of the things I like to do in the very beginning, the very first stage, is to validate the idea a little bit, to see, hey, is this really going to make you some money? Or like, what's the chance, right? Yeah. Is it going to be like a needle in a haystack, right? Or, you know, do we have some kind of confidence? And what you're saying is even like better than what I do, is essentially like talk to some experts and see if it has any concept at all, right? Yeah. And talk to some people who've, you know, been there and done that. You know, even though you can't, if you're innovating, right, you have an innovative product, you may think there's never been anything in the world like it. You're blazing the trails, and you talk to some people with some scars, and they're going to be like, okay, it's great to innovate, right? You're the guy that gets all the arrows in the back, so here's what you should look out for.
Yes, 100%. You know, a lot of people kind of go about this and they look at investors almost like a mark. Like I have to win them over or something like that. Instead of just saying they're people, talk to them, become friends with them, have casual conversations with them about anything and everything. Let them, you know, be curious a little bit about what you've got going on. Ask some smart questions about, you know, like, when you start to get to that honest, nobody like was born knowing all of this. Everybody got exposed somewhere. Someone might say, oh, I learned a lot of this in business school. Great. I didn't go to business school. If you didn't go to business school, how would you go about kind of doing this? Or someone might say, I worked at such and such place and they did it. Great. Tell me a little bit about, if I'm not working there, like, what would you recommend? What's like a fast track to get there? Your goal is just to try to get to know them as people, so that they're not constantly on their guard because they get pitched a lot. It's almost like, you know, being like, you know, a celebrity, you know, like a form of celebrity in the room, that they have a lot of people pitching to them. And your goal
especially if they've done more than a handful of investments.
Right. But if you're just having more open conversations, sometimes, you know, they're giving you feedback, and if you show them that you're trying to understand their perspective, they're going to appreciate that. They're going to give you more. And they're kind of giving it for free to a degree.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you're like, you just go in there and you're like, I want to create a win-win situation for both of us. I've got something. I think it's good. But I kind of want to get your feedback. Like, what's your perspective? I love getting their perspective because their perspective has all those extra years, those scars behind it that I don't have. They've got something that I can grab from their perspective versus my own perception. I don't get deflated. Like, I don't, you know, if they don't like an idea that I'm putting out there, I just sort of am like, okay, but I'm curious and interested in their perspective. I might change my mind, or I might alter it, or I might add a few more caveats. But, you know, generally speaking, it's like, that's the way, just their perspective. So
yeah, there's so much, and I'm just jumping out of my seat. I am, right? Because this is so funny, a fun way of looking at it. One of the steps I have my clients do, if they're willing to, 80% never do, but 20% somehow pull this off. And that is to, when we're in the middle of the discovery process, to go out and interview 5 or 10 people. Just go talk to 10 people. Find them on the street, find them in the store, find them in a forum, right? Find them somewhere we can talk to them. And you're going to see how much, from the first person to the 5th person to the 10th person, that you're going to change your concept. You're going to think of new things. You're going to have all new questions. And I can only imagine how embarrassing it would be if you skip this step and try to go straight to talking to an investor like you knew the world and just try to spin everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, those anecdotal stories are part of what the storytelling part with any investor. They kind of want to know the story, right? Like half the time they're investing in the person more than the idea. Almost
always, yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, obviously the right person, the right idea should be coming from a person who's obviously somewhat competent, but and that's such a big part of it. So when they know that you've done this extra homework, when they see you're above the average of what they're being pitched, they see that you aren't like, hey, I decided a clever trick to do something, and I think I've got a bajillion-dollar idea. They're less without any proof. They're going to be less inclined to respond to that.
Yeah, but how would you, right? If somebody came to you with that pitch, and you're like, okay, cool, so tell me about it, and then they're kind of defensive. Well, I can't tell you anything until you have an NDA. First of all, right? That's my favorite.
Like, can you tell me the flavor of what we're going to be talking about? Because I don't even know if I want to go through all that paperwork, right? Like,
right.
And on top of that, if you're on the other side of that, you're like, what am I giving up by signing an NDA? Well, now I've got some non-disclosure thing, and now I have no information that I can't act on. It's like, but I'd rather just go with what I already know now, and no one can claim they have.
It doesn't get in the way of my life, and
no one can claim a position against me if I already had some of the same ideas that they're coming at me with.
Yep.
I don't want them now claiming a position against me, right? So it's like when you go into that.
Well, on top of that, it's like how to go ask for money without showing any trust and showing that you don't trust somebody.
Right. I mean, honestly, if you're that concerned about your idea, is it that you
don't have any guards?
Don't have any other ideas? No like moats? Literally, you have no other. It's like you're so like caught up on one possible thing. To me, that's more like. I would like to see the person be a little more open to talk about the flavor of their idea, the flavor of the business situation, or that. And also, not everybody wants to talk about the money side, because if you're an investor, sometimes you know the money side better than they do. So it's like, they use the same pitch that they would go to ask for some funds from a family member, like that initial seed money, like the friends and family bootstrap. Yep. They're trying to use the same style of pitch for that to someone who knows way more about them, about the downstream, what it actually looks like to see this thing through the sale. And they're trying to decide, do I want to ride down this with you? Yep. When I'm frustrated, or when I want my money back, when I'm looking at all my missed opportunities, what I could have done with that money, and I go to you and say, hey, I have to dial the pressure up, or you're going to handle it well. Right?
Yeah.
So I feel like the mindset there is to listen a lot from those investors, and to try to get them to talk more, and then to share with them what you can, to say it's a flavor, it's an app, it's a utility, it kind of serves a certain group of people like this. Right now, I don't see anything on market or even advertising on market that's competitive with it. I'd love to share some of the details, and then humbly say, if you're asking for an NDA, not like, but you got to sign an NDA. You're like, I know this is a big inconvenience. I want to share the in-depth piece with you. Would you be open? Humbly asking them, would you be open to signing an NDA so I can be completely open with you about the details of this? And if you feel like you've got a conflict or whatever, I completely understand. Maybe it's not a good fit. But it's in this flavor. It's like this. I think there's an exciting thing here. I'd love to share it with you. Would you be open to that? A lot of times, if you ask respectfully like that, they're more likely to say, all right, I'll do an NDA with you. Can I sign it? Can you make it easy? Okay, great. I don't have to fill out 8 million things. I can just, cool. Done. Let's do it. Even better if the NDA is almost like a mutual NDA, where it's like you could share feedback with me, and I'm not going to go and, like, I didn't pay for it, so I'm not going to blackball people, if you like that too. But I feel like that kind of like meeting them where they're at, trying to see it through their perspective.
Yeah.
Big difference.
when you come in with this NDA, first of all, there's a bunch of other issues too, right? So the first thing, it puts a person not just in a defensive position, right, and the trust issue right away, but also if you're so scared to share it, do you have like what's your perspective on building a moat, right? To build protection into your system so that once you create this idea or this product, right, it's not just software, it's any kind of product, right? How do you protect your moat, right? And if you're,
I mean, if you can get a design patent, if you can get any kind of just intellectual property going, just get the ball rolling. Just to set aside, I got an IP lawyer. Like I'm friendly with them, and I'm actually doing that. You know, and then don't oversell like the IP, but just say I've got one and it's there. There's a couple of things. You're sending a signal that you're serious. You're sending a signal that you've at least watched Shark Tank once or twice, right? You know, like you're sending a signal that you're doing some stuff to protect it. But like Shark Tank, you know, if you don't pitch to people and get if they don't know the opportunity, they're not gonna. There's only so much they can do.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And I do think all people that want to sell a product need to watch Shark Tank and shows like it, and take it a little bit more seriously when they hear about valuations, when they hear about how much money have you sunk into it. They don't want to hear the sob story that you sunk, that you threw $80,000 into it and it's not going anywhere and you're broke. They don't want to hear that. You sound like a loser when you say that.
Yeah, don't sound like a loser.
Yeah, and so what you want to do, what you want to tell them is, you know, I put $80,000 into it because I really do believe this is the best way I could have spent that. It's at a certain level of development right now that I think makes it a great ripe opportunity for some outside support here. You want to be able to talk from places. If I feel confident I can go back and get a job and do fine if I need to. And so if I were to, you know, so however this plays out, if I find the right investment partner, then this product's going to move along quickly, and I can I can dedicate and go all in. If I don't have, you know, the right investment support here, just for practical reasons, I'm going to take care of at least a part-time job to go and make sure that I'm supporting and meeting all my current responsibilities, so I can continue to fund the business myself. Further along it goes, the higher, you know, the price will be for any equity. So right now, the question is, you invest in this now, we move fast, I'm all in. You know, not interested in this now, that's fine, I'm going to continue to develop this, and I think it's still going to be a great idea down the line. But you may not have the same stake opportunity that you would have now. And, you know, and I feel like that's the play you have to make if you're in that situation. Ideally, you just want to be in a place where you're like, I've still got plenty of that. That's the dream situation. Or I don't need to commit more than part-time for this. You know, I just need logistics. You know, I've got the support system I need. I can do this half-time. I can work half-time. I've got all my needs met. And I can continue to put a little bit toward it. So
Yeah. It's kind of a fun position to be in if you can get the investors kind of excited enough about your idea that they say, hey, I want you to be able to focus on this full time, take this money and really run into it. So I want you to quit your damn job.
Yep. Yes. Yep. I think that's an ideal situation. You get to go all in. They get the security of knowing their investment is backed by you being all in.
Yep, all in. You put a little bit of work into it. You've done the work. Answered at least most of the questions that anybody would ask if they had any experience in the field, which comes back to like talking to somebody not like yourself, maybe, but maybe just like yourself at a time to see what you have to do, right? So, if somebody was looking at any of this, at what point do you think they should start with somebody like me who's developing the product? Versus, and not even somebody like me, right? Because I'm a little different in the development world, but just a regular development agency versus coming to somebody who's looking at structuring the business and accelerating the initial business growth, right? How would you look at that approach, that flight path?
Well, the people that are going to structure the business and go all in on that part are usually going to want a big stake, right? That's an incubator type situation, anything like that. They're going to take a huge stake right up front. And I feel like obviously you have to win them over, that they're buying you, the entrepreneur, the person there. You have to demonstrate an agreeableness, a drive, business sense, a vision. You have to be articulate. They have to feel like they could, if you need further rounds of investment, they have to feel like you could sell them too. And that you're not going to leave this person holding the bag with a bunch of money invested in you. And you're just kind of like, I'm just going to roll it all up and walk away.
Yeah.
You want them to feel confident. So I guess, to that point, I feel like there's an opportunity for a lot of people building a product to try to make their job or what they're doing on the side working on someone else's product that's already funded, working on other, working on another startup situation, or working on the PE side, acquiring companies that started that way. Get yourself in the game. And I think that will allow you to make more measured decisions about how much equity you should be giving up at which point in time, at which stage.
Okay. All right. Because I was about to ask, you said investors expect to get a big stake, right? And I was wondering what in your mind, and what you could say traditionally a big stake would be from the perspective of an investor. Like, they're probably thinking it's a small stake for what they're giving, while the product owner thinks it's a huge stake. But what do you think that looks like?
I mean, if I'm going to fund the whole thing and all you are is an idea and hopes and dreams, I'm going to want a controlling interest.
51, 60%.
Right. I mean, it's like I'm putting all the money up. I'm buying all the time and all the resources and everything.
Yeah.
I'm going to want a controlling interest, especially if the money that I'm putting up is drastically more than the money that they're putting up to start.
Yeah, especially because they can buy just the existing business.
Right. Exactly. And so it's sort of like, it's because I also see it as they're also going to look at it like, I feel like I have to babysit this. I'm putting this much of the company's entire finances in my hands. I'm going to be more invested than to a certain degree they are, because they can always go and get a job. That's what I'm competing with.
Yep. And this is the truth. I've seen it a lot where, people, like, they bring in money, they bring in talent, they have people spend like a year of their life helping them out, and they're like, what, I'm kind of stressed out, I'm going to take a break for a month or two.
Right.
And they disappear for 2 months, 6 months, forever. And there's some people right now, some of my clients, thinking like, Phil's talking about me. No, dear, no, brother, I'm not. It's like it's a percentage. It's a large percentage of people that get freaked out and quit.
I feel like if you've already got chops, as in you were a product visionary, maybe within a company, and they launched a product, and maybe it was just one of a product line or something like that, and you have that experience, you've got that sort of industry insider know-how, you've seen it through launch and to success. I feel like that's a very different conversation than if you're like, I'm still on this side of learning all that, of that experience as an investor. And so a lot of times the investor is going to assume that they have to bring that to the table if you don't already have it.
Yep. And they do.
Yeah. And they do, but they have to, right? Depending on how invested they are.
How fast the entrepreneur, the product visionary, depending on how experienced they are and how much they've already produced in that, it comes down to how fast they can learn a lot of times. Yeah.
The other part they're going to look at is, are you a driver, or are you going to trip at the finish line? Are you going to push this to its ultimate end goal?
Yeah.
Are you going to sweat and lose sleep if it's, losing traction, or are you just going to be like, well, it's not my money, It's the investor's money.
Yeah, this is somebody else's money, and I'm stressed out, and I got to have health stuff, and I have kids, or
Right.
whatever.
Exactly. Life. Yeah.
Life happens.
Doing life.
And there's always a time when the going gets hard. There's always hard times.
Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, everybody would do it, right?
Yeah. Right. And this was true, isn't it? Not everybody has those kind of the well to pull from. I haven't found. Have you found a good way to identify the guys that will have that well, that are, something in their life made it so that they're going to step out of this normal everyday kind of life and make that transition into entrepreneurship?
I look for a sense of like agency on their behalf. Like the more that they've willed something to happen, not we're step by step directed by someone else. See, like there's a zone that you can be in where it's like someone already did the SOP and did the strategy, and you're following. You can be an amazing craftsperson. That's very different from. So I started a club. I did, like the kinds of things that I look for are, when did you bring something into existence that wasn't there before?
Okay.
How did you demonstrate a resourcefulness and an agency to make it happen? There's a kind of stubbornness to it.
There is. Yeah.
Like you kind of have to have this thing where it's like, whatever it is, I'm going to dive right in. You've got to have a bit of a, and you hate it and you're afraid and you feel all the emotions, but it doesn't change the fact that you're like, no, it's going to happen.
Do or die. I'm not letting this bone go.
This is going. Yeah, exactly. And that stubbornness, and that sort of sense of agency, that it's like, well, I don't know how to do it. And instead of saying that, you say, I'm going to go and find someone who knows how to do it. I'm going to learn how to do it. I'm going to find, I'm not going to give it up if it has to be done. Sorry, I have one more. Sorry. But yes,
You got a package you got to get real quick?
I do. Go. Yeah, maybe we can just kind of wrap it up. Maybe.
Yeah, I think we need to wrap it up. We got 5 minutes about max.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you like 2 more questions and give you the last word. So my first question is, I don't know if you've ever seen these books, the Strategist series.
I think I've seen one of these. Maybe that. Ooh. Okay, interesting. No, I haven't. Okay, cool. Then that question is gone. Yeah. The next question is, I pushed a button. No.
I have an adjustable table.
Yes.
So could you recommend a good book for somebody who's trying to transition to find success or a path to success, right? Is there a book you'd recommend?
One of the books that I really think is helpful for someone who wants to become an entrepreneur is
Traction
by Gino Wickman. It's about the EOS system, but really to me, it's about, someone who has a great idea needs to think about how to manage, an actual business and how to structure it and how to come up with a management structure and think about, getting traction with it. So I think this is a good one to jump into. I would say, beyond that, I noticed you had like that Alex Hormozi book back there, right behind you. I think that some of his content is actually pretty phenomenal for explaining kind of key business ideas in a very straightforward and direct way. And I do think that even if it doesn't hit a chord the first time around, circle back as you're actually working on your business, and your perspective will evolve, and more of it will land. It'll strike maybe a more vibrant chord.
Awesome. Absolutely. Goodness, I had so many questions through this conversation about building the team, building your advisors, right? All that stuff that I wanted to get into the beginning with you, and I just got sidetracked. And we only talked about startup. Was like, it was not even like your best asset. Come on. So this call was all about me, and I'm sorry for that, man. Let me give you the last word, and we'll wrap it up.
All right. Well, I just want to say to everybody out there, look, if you're looking to get into business, you're looking to do a startup, go all in and be stubborn. I think that you're going to find that sometimes it's not one trick. It's usually, most often, the person that's the most stubborn just won't let go of getting to that vision, getting to that success is the one that's going to hit, the one that's going to win.
Yeah, I love it. People are going to watch how stubborn you are, how much you're willing to fight for that, and you'll be noticed. So if people tell you no in the beginning, keep fighting. Do just what Brian did, and you're going to see more success.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you, Philip.
Thank you very much.